Good evening. Welcome back to the channel. This video is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own research, make your own decisions. All right, guys, welcome back. Number of things to go over here. I do want to address the SEC securities thing, just to go over some important details here. And because it's not just one specific crypto that was named a security over the last however many months, dating back 6-8 months, there's been a number of different blue chip crypto companies or their assets classified or named as a security in lawsuits against certain exchanges. The way this has worked up into this point, for the most part, is that the SEC will sue, let's say, Coinbase and or Binance and or Bittrex and say, you're selling unregistered securities, and then they'll have a list of different cryptos that they're calling unregistered securities, okay? Now, it's not out of the realm of possibility that the SEC could, at some point in time, sue those individual crypto companies, similar to what they did with Ripple. So I'm not saying that I think that's going to happen, or I'm just saying it's not out of the realm of possibility. But there's a lot to go over here, so I want to go ahead and get into it. And I'll go over some other things as well. So let's just go through the timeline here. June 6th, or roundabouts, give or take a couple days, the SEC sued Coinbase. And in the suit, they named numerous cryptos securities, ICP, Cardano, Polygon, Near, BNB, etc. Now, I believe algorand was also named, but this was an earlier lawsuit against Bittrex. And there's other, I think, Flow as well. There's other layer ones and other types of cryptos that are named as securities in other lawsuits. They have a lawsuit against Coinbase, against Binance, and I think also against Bittrex and maybe one or two other exchanges. All right, so that was on June 6th, about a month ago. And then about less than 2 weeks after that, BlackRock files for a spot Bitcoin ETF, along with numerous other financial institutions. And they listed Coinbase as their exchange. Now, not all of the different financial institutions that filed for a Bitcoin spot ETF listed Coinbase, but BlackRock did, and at least one or two others did as well, from my recollection. So I just think that immediately I have questions. All right, so the SEC is suing Coinbase for selling unregistered securities, essentially alleging they're committing illegal activity. The SEC sues Coinbase. Less than 2 weeks later, the largest asset manager in the world files for a spot Bitcoin ETF and lists Coinbase, who's already a partner of theirs, as their exchange. Now, on top of this, the US government has, whenever they sold how much Bitcoin they sold, from my understanding, based on all the reports, they used Coinbase. And on top of that, if you remember back in 2021, I reported on this, the Department of Homeland Security and then one or two other government agencies, they have government contracts with Coinbase for some type of analytics software. So all of these things go into my assessment. I don't just look at the SEC suing Coinbase and calling ICP or Polygon or whatever a security. I don't look at that in a vacuum. Okay, I look at it through the broader context of everything else that's also happening, right? Because it is that's relevant information, in my opinion. Okay, so that was June 15th. Now, fast forward about 2 weeks after that, they have the .0 Forum, which was a conference put on by numerous different financial institutions, and primarily it was just a lot of different central bankers. Representatives from the BIS were there, from the IMF, from the World Bank, and from other central banks around the world. Regulators were there. Caroline Pham was there, the commissioner of the CFTC. There were people there from the Federal Reserve. There were 2 or 3 representatives there listed as speakers from the Federal Reserve. Okay, so let's just keep the timeline. This all happened within a 30-day period. Okay, so the SEC sues Coinbase on June 6th and calls a number of different crypto companies securities. And then 3 weeks later, some of those very crypto companies, their CEOs and or other execs from those foundations were speaking at the .0 Forum alongside Caroline Pham, the commissioner of the CFTC, alongside Bank of International Settlements higher-ups, alongside Federal Reserve higher-ups, alongside a bunch of other CEOs and executives from some of the largest corporations in the world. Now, whoever was putting on these central bankers, I guess, the .0 forum, they had 3 weeks to contact these people who they had. Dfinity was there, and these guys, these were listed as speakers. And I'll attach the link in the description section, but you really should look through the speakers list. It's about 200 or so speakers in total, because there were a lot of different panels over the 2 or 3 day conference. So roughly 200 speakers. And you can just go all the way down the list. And outside of CEOs from CEOs and higher level executives from large corporations, central bankers, and regulators like Caroline Pham, outside of those people, the only other people that were listed as speakers were people like Dominic, Brad Garlinghouse, Stacey Ward, and so on and so forth. This is CEO of Cardano, the chief policy officer of Polygon, the CEO of the Near Foundation was also here listed as a speaker. So all of these different crypto companies that have been classified by the SEC or that have been named as a security by the SEC, they're out at a conference that is hosting the most powerful people in the world in all reality, where there's numerous representatives from the Bank for International Settlements, from the World Bank, and from other central banks. And these crypto company CEOs are there speaking and participating in panels. All right. Not everybody that was attending the .0 forum was listed as a speaker on these panels. It's also important to note. Okay. So, I include stuff like this in my assessment when I'm looking at this entire situation. I'll just put it that way. So, but all of that being said, I am prepared in case the SEC goes overboard. So let's just go to the extreme. All right, let's think this all the way through, because you have to be prepared for any situation that arises. Let's say the SEC decides to directly sue Dfinity or Algorand or Cardano or Polygon or all of them. Let's just say that happens. Let's say that those different assets get delisted on Coinbase and other exchanges in the US, and you can no longer buy them, similar to how it was with XRP or how it is with XRP. That might happen. Entirely possible. Now, for me, the way that I avoid dealing with a lot of this stuff that may or may not happen is I just self-custody everything. And so let's just say the most extreme example, there's some type of announcement or some type of bill that's passed to ban all US citizens from buying any cryptocurrency. All mine's in self-custody. So it is what it is. So I'm prepared for even the most extreme example. I guess maybe you could make the case for why, the SEC coming after them could completely destroy whichever crypto company and network it is, and that they could go to zero, and that's the worst case scenario, and that's fine. That's anything is possible. Okay, it's possible that an alien spaceship lands off the coast of Virginia this week and completely takes over, and when we're in a Independence Day type scenario, that's possible. There's a lot of things that are possible, right? But when I'm looking at probability, I have to take into account all of these other things as well. All right. But I'm prepared for the worst case scenario if in fact that does happen. But given that I'm watching many of these very companies be adopted by large institutions on a weekly, monthly basis, and it's been that way for over 2 years, despite whatever's been coming out of the SEC, given that I'm watching that, given that I can go and look and see that many of these people were speaking with other central bankers, people like Caroline Pham, at the Point Zero Forum, a collection of some of the most powerful people in the world, given that I can see that with my own eyes, it's hard for me to make this whole thing with the SEC the end all be all. But I understand that other people will view this differently. So what I would suggest is look at it for yourself and do what you feel like you need to do to protect yourself in any scenario. Okay? So there we go. When I put out that video 3 or 4 months ago talking about how you should be prepared for some type of regulatory overreach this year, but that I thought it was going to be temporary, I really did mean that when I put that video out. Like I normally don't talk about stuff like this with the SEC. So yeah. Okay. Be prepared for anything. Be prepared for them to go overboard. Okay. You might even want to set your expectations that that's going to happen. And if it does, then you're prepared. If it doesn't, then oh well, all good. Why hasn't anything that's happened with the SEC affected the broader adoption from institutions? And guys, I've been consistent about this. If you go back to my earliest videos, what have I always said? My one guiding light, my one main indicator is adoption from institutions. That's my main, that's the thing that I am looking at. If that continues, I continue with my strategy. Now, you might disagree with that general strategy that I have, and that's my main indicator. You might think that's a bad idea. So you shouldn't do that, right? You should come up with your own type of thesis and plan and strategy that makes sense for you. But that's the one that makes sense for me. Because if I see large corporations, even here recently, look at how many different institutions are using Polygon. Look at how many large corporations are using Polygon. Franklin Templeton's using Polygon, one of the largest asset managers in the country, in the world. Now, if their CEO, if Franklin Templeton's CEO were to come out and say, we're no longer going to be using this technology, and that were to happen with other institutions, Ernst & Young, for example, Franklin Templeton, one of the largest asset managers in the country, and then Ernst & Young, one of the big four, are both openly using Polygon. So, and I'm not saying that they're never going to come out and make a statement about some of the things that are being said about regulation. Maybe Ernst & Young and Franklin Templeton come out and say something. Maybe they decide to press pause. I don't know. I just know what I've seen up until this point, and I have to take that into consideration when I'm looking at the total picture. Why would BlackRock and others list Coinbase as their exchange not even 2 weeks after the lawsuit? On top of that, Coinbase officials were also listed as speakers here. So was at least one person from Binance. So Coinbase was also at the Point Zero Forum, and they had at least 1 or 2 people speaking, 2 of their executives. So the SEC is calling ICP and others a security. All right. But what about regulators elsewhere? And for this part, it's more so about ICP. Well, so that's the US and that's the SEC within the US. All right. So let's look elsewhere because, again, this is not just a US specific thing. Swiss government officials from the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs were just at dfinity headquarters. Additionally, Post Finance, a Swiss government-owned bank, partnered with Signum months ago, and Signum openly says we played a key role in launching and operating the internet computer on their website. They also, so now Post Finance allows institutional grade staking and custody for ICP. So a Swiss government-owned bank allows institutional grade staking and custody for ICP. I take this into consideration, right? It's all about an accumulative picture of all of the information and then trying to make sense of what it means. The Federality Initiative was announced in Rome, Italian Senate. This came out. That was announced in Rome at the Italian Senate. Dominic gave the opening keynote at the Hong Kong Web3 Festival not too long ago. And there were a number of different regulators and government officials there from Hong Kong participating in those panels. And Wan Chang has been a longtime supporter of ICP. They hosted a 6-month ICP boot camp, and Wan Chang openly acknowledges they work very closely with regulators in China, and they even established, they were one of the founding members of one of these NGOs that is really the middleman between the crypto companies and the Chinese regulators. And Wan Chang, the giant global corporation, they're huge. They're huge. They're all over the place. They're in every single country almost. They're in most every single industry. Now, Wan Chang Blockchain is the nonprofit that's set up more or less to work within the blockchain crypto space. But they've been a long-time supporter of ICP, hosted a 6-month developer boot camp, right? And so I take all these things into consideration. And for me, I am preparing for any outcome, and that's that. But as long as I see the technology moving forward, I continue with my plan. And if that doesn't make sense for you, then you should find something to do that makes sense for you. So that's that. Okay. All right. Now, but I do just want to really, the point zero forum was underreported on just a very just insane degree, because this was actually a very big deal. I did not realize how big of a deal this was until I started scrolling through the speakers list. And when you start seeing some of the names that are on the speakers list, you'll see what I'm saying. I'll put that link in the description section for this video. Okay. Last thing I want to go over here. This is total 3. All right. So this is the crypto market cap, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so we have been in this, you could call this this box right here. You could call this a range, right? We've been in this general range for over a year. All right. It looked like we might have broken out, a couple months ago, and then we came right back down, was unable to get through, and this is when we tanked when the SEC news came out. Now we've climbed back up, and we're right around this general trend line here. However, we might see another fake out, and there might be some more just grinding to the side. Who knows? Okay. I'm not going to try to predict when things are going to go up. I have absolutely no idea. Nothing's ever a sure thing. This is not financial advice. Do your own research. Maybe the elites decide to scrap their new system, guys. I've been saying that for a long time. Maybe it happens. I just need to start seeing more evidence to support that case than supports the case that all of this is just going to move forward. Because when I look at all the evidence combined as one big picture, there's overwhelmingly more evidence that suggests this is all just going to keep moving forward. And this is a good example of that, even though there's tons of other examples I could use of real technology being implemented for enterprise use with large institutions. So this is where we're at right now, guys. And I just think it's interesting that as we're trying, could be a fake out, right? We could just grind sideways, or it could just shoot back down. But as we're trying to break out of 18-month resistance, there's tons of altcoin FUD just all over the place. Another thing too, guys, is that when we've been at the top of this range, my positions have been in profit. Like my portfolio in aggregate has been in profit. Really, it's just if ICP is in profit, more times than not, my portfolio is in profit. But if ICP is not, then it's not. I mean, it's really that simple. But I'm not going to sit here like this is the range. Okay, we have been in this box for going back over a year now, and my portfolio has been in profit at the top of this range. And so when we go to the bottom of the range, I'm not going to sit here knowing that we're in a 12-month range, listening to people, oh, you're getting wrecked, you're getting this, you're getting that, you're getting that. So let me get this straight. We're in the exact same range that we've been in for over a year. And my portfolio is in profit at the top of the range, but it's not at the bottom of the range. So down here, I'm wrecked, right? I tell you, man, people have just gotten way too emotional and too they just gotten psychologically scarred by the bear market. I really think that. My goal was always dollar cost average, dollar cost average, dollar cost average. all the way through this general period. And then at the end of it, whenever it turns up, my portfolio is in profit and I can just let it ride. And that's what I 100% plan on doing, assuming the market does turn up at some point in time, which I do expect that. But again, nothing's ever a sure thing. Do your own research. This is not financial advice. But make your own decisions, guys. I've said this a couple times here recently, but guys, my own brother, who kind of relies on me to explain what's going on in this space, my own brother only has like 5% of his net worth in crypto. Maybe it might be 3 or 4%. I'm not sitting here telling him, you got to bet it all. You got to put more in. No, that's what makes sense for him. So do what makes sense for you. Now, I will adamantly defend and explain why I do what I do, because I'm going to show what I do for full transparency, not because I want you to do it, but just because if I'm going to be showing what I'm doing, I'm going to also make the case for why it makes sense for me personally. But we all have different perspectives, different conviction. We all might see this a little bit different, big picture, and we have different timelines, different financial situations. So everybody should do what they think is best for them. Okay. That's all I have for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. That's it. Take care. Not financial advice. And I will be a little bit busy this week just with work and some other things going on. But I will stay updated in the community tab. And I will also, I'll catch back up with you guys this upcoming weekend. And if anything crazy does happen, I will get a video out. It just might be later on that evening. That's it. That's all I got. Take care. Have a good night. I'll see you in the next video.